Hello, everyone. This is Tom Fox back for another episode, and I'm absolutely thrilled today to have with me Taylor King. First of all, Taylor, thank you so much for taking the time to visit with me, and welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me on.
So, Taylor, could you tell us a little bit about your artistic background, if I can put it that way?
Sure. So I started acting back when I was in high school, but it was mainly just stage at that point, and I honestly didn't really get into it until my senior year, my junior and senior year. I was still kind of shy to it as of my sophomore year, and then senior year was when I really also got into musical theater as well as just stage and play, and I also started being a part of a lot of praise and worship at my church, so a lot of singing, started singing at weddings, so I have a background in vocal and singing as well, and then when I got to college, I couldn't completely give it up. I wasn't studying to do theater as a major, but I still took a couple of classes as elective credits, and I got involved in some student-led organizations who would write their own shows, write their own musicals, and then I took a short little break, and then during the pandemic, I kind of had a realization and a I just kinda looked at my life during that little break when we were all shut in at home, and I asked myself, "What is it that I really wanna be doing when the world opens up again?" And I came to the conclusion that I really wanted to investigate the world of film, and I wanted to pursue acting professionally. And so it was 2021 is when I really started looking into film specifically.
Where'd you grow up?
I grew up in Pflugerville, Texas, which is just right on the outside of Austin.
I can't believe you described Pflugerville that way. Gosh. No, you're right. I mean, I went to college in the '70s, and Pflugerville was a long way away. Nobody
Mhm.
went to Pflugerville. And you're right now. It's the next town over.
It's grown immensely. One of my favorite little facts about Pflugerville, so when I was in high school, we for some reason in our health class, we were watching What's Eating Gilbert Grape, which is like a really famous movie with Johnny Depp and Leonardo DiCaprio, and our teacher loved pointing out the fact that, "You see this field? This is Pflugerville." So they actually filmed part of that movie in Pflugerville, so fun fact.
Where'd you go to college?
I went to UT Austin.
Hook 'em. Ignite tonight.
Yes.
So, can you tell us a little bit about your first of all, you're the first person that has told me about using the pandemic to really refocus on what you wanted.
Mhm.
And I had one of those aha moments, but it was when I was hit by a Hummer and I was riding a bike, and I decided that if life's gonna be that short, I might wanna reevaluate where I was
Wow.
going. But, so kudos to you for that, and maybe we could explore that on another podcast. But I wanted to ask you, what was your role in Sherlock Holmes, Mayor of the Night?
I had the pleasure of playing a lovely character. Her name is Scarlett. She comes in at the beginning of the movie. I'm not going to give too much away, but she's the girl who comes in and she needs Sherlock's help. She has a problem, she needs an answer, and she's a go getter. So she is very determined to get what she needs from Sherlock, his assistance on her case.
You're the first actor I've interviewed for this series, and I think probably the first actor ever I've interviewed who also has a musical theater background and also singing and other performance art at your church. Can you tell me a little bit about your musical theater background? And equally importantly, how did that work in your church in singing or other performance art really help inform you as an actor today?
Sure. So I always loved singing, but as I mentioned earlier in the episode, I was a little bit shy. So it wasn't until my freshman year, I think, in high school that I, for the first time, decided to sing in front of other people. There was a little high school choir at our church, And so every once in a while, they would have solo auditions, and I decided to go for it. I never did it in the middle school choir. I never attempted to do theater in middle school, but in high school, I really wanted to take baby steps to try. So in high school, I started singing in my high school church choir, and I like to think I've improved dramatically presence-wise. I can still remember that first day auditioning, just shaking profusely, so nervous. And then as I had more opportunities to perform live in front of people, both through singing and voice and through acting on stage as well, I became more comfortable with people having their eyes on me. I became more comfortable in exploring the different parts of the character with inside myself. Musical theater, yes, that was probably my main focus in junior and senior year of high school. I wasn't always the best dancer, I'll be honest, but I loved to sing. I still do.
Are you involved in martial arts at all?
Yes, I am. Almost 3 years ago now, I started taking a Muay Thai, which is very similar to kickboxing. A lot of people call it kickboxing on steroids. It adds in a couple extra elements like elbows, knees, and something that they call the clinch, which is you kinda get closer combat. But yes, I so at the same time I was starting my acting career, I was trying to build my resume, and so not only through experience, I was looking at my skill set and saying, "What's something interesting that I could put on there?" And I always thought it'd be fun to try kickboxing, and then I did a little bit more research. I was looking for kickboxing gyms, and somehow I stumbled on Muay Thai, and I think this looks cool. So, I started taking Muay Thai almost 3 years ago. I only intended to do it for a year. I wanted to do it for a year, get good enough to where I felt comfortable putting it on my actor's resume, but I loved that. I fell in love with the people who are in the community, so I've continued doing that on the side as well.
I understand this was your first feature film experience. Is that correct?
Yes, very first one.
So, what drew you to this project?
At the time, I was really just looking at all the casting calls that were posted and available. Now, granted, sometimes you submit yourself for a project and then you'll get a script back and you'll take a look at it and you think, okay, I'm not really sure that this would be a good fit for me. It's not something that really sparked my interest. But when I saw the callback or the audition posting for Sherlock, I was a really big fan of the BBC Sherlock series with Benedict Cumberbatch. So as soon as I saw Sherlock, I thought, ooh, this looks really interesting. And then I submitted myself and I got the script to send in what they call a self-tape for the actors. It's in place of an in-person audition, so they can get the first look at you. And I was really impressed with the writing of the script. Sherlock Holmes, he's a very particular kind of character. He speaks in a particular kind of way. He's known to be very intelligent. He's known for certain language. So when I saw the script that was written, I thought, okay, this person, they know what they're talking about and they're really interested in doing a good job. So as soon as I saw the script, I knew that I wanted to be involved.
As I mentioned earlier, I've interviewed many of your colleagues, some of whom played, for instance, Les Best played Sherlock Holmes himself. So we had actors playing very well known, very established characters. Your character may have been less well known or may have actually been written in for the movie, but I wanted to ask you, did you feel that sort of gravitas or that you were a part of something bigger than yourself because you were acting in a Sherlock Holmes movie? You mentioned your love of the BBC series. I have that same love. I'm doing the entire Conan Doyle oeuvre on a podcast series about Sherlock Holmes. But even for an actor like yourself, playing a character who may not have been written into any of the short stories, did you still feel that sort of gravitas of, "I'm part of something that literally goes back nearly 150 years now"?
Yes, I felt a lot of pressure for 2 reasons, mainly, honestly, because of the people that I was working with. My character, she is written specifically for the film, but working alongside of the other actors, working alongside Les and Michelle, honestly, just seeing the energy and the motivation and all the input that they were bringing into it, it set such a high bar for everybody, for all of the actors, for all of the set and tech and makeup crew. I think we all felt that this was really something special. Yes, indeed, because it is Sherlock and it's something that people are going to have expectations for. And then again, just because of how everyone was just showing up to begin with.
And that really leads to my next area I wanted to explore with you, which was the collaborative nature of the entire production. You obviously mentioned the other actors, but you also mentioned the set crew, the tech crew, the producers, the assistant producers, CJ himself. Could you speak a little bit about the collaboration? And if you want to limit it to your character, that's fine. But what did that mean for you personally?
Absolutely. Yes, there was collaboration on all aspects. My main job was an actor, but there's scenes in the movie where I'm gonna be able to point to it and say, "I was holding a light board. I was helping to sprinkle snow into the area." Everyone was involved all the time. So a lot of times as an actor, what I learned on this project being my first is that you're gonna be on set for a long time, but you're not always gonna be working in your scene or working in the camera. And that was the amazing part of the entire cast and crew is that no one really wanted to stand around and do nothing. Everyone was always willing to hop in. "How can I help? How can I hold this light? Can I help grab a prop? What can I do to further the story along?" Actors were helping in the tech area. I believe some of the tech crew were first timers, so they were getting to learn a lot on set because they wanted to do an amazing job. I think people were crossing over in their areas. There were people who had never done makeup before who were like, "I'm gonna learn how to do makeup so I can help in this area." The collaboration between the other actors and with CJ, that was a lot of pre-work before even coming to set. I think other actors who have been on the podcast mentioned how CJ always made himself available. I would say that was 100% true. He would reach out to us, say, "Okay, I've sent you the scene. What do you think about it? What do you need clarification on? What can I do to help you?" And we also, as all the actors, we would have different meetings before coming to set. We would discuss the material, we would discuss our characters' backgrounds, what we think is happening. I think this was also said on a previous episode, but what was involved was just so much passion. Everyone who was involved wanted to be there and wanted to give it their absolute all. And that's why I'm so happy and also terrified that this was my first project, because part of me is afraid that I'll never find anything like it again. It was just a really wonderful first experience, a blessing to be a part of.
How did you prepare for your role since this was your first feature film? Did you obviously drew upon past experiences? Could you maybe walk us through your creative process to get to the character we're going to see on the screen literally in a couple of weeks?
Sure. So, first of all, I had to acquaint myself with the times. Obviously, the film does not take place in the 2000s. It takes place in the 1800s in England. I am a girl from America in the 2000s. After having a lengthy discussion with CJ about his vision for the character, I started doing a lot of research about where were women in this time and age? Where would I have been coming from? What kind of career, what kind of dreams did I have as this character? So there was a lot of research going into it beforehand just to figure out who I am because ultimately that kind of shapes everything else. Even though it's already written on a page, I had to figure out what are her desires, what are her aspirations, who is she? And then it would kind of vary week to week. You get the material, you got to go through it. You have to explore the language. Again, you have to explore everything in context of the times, of your character and of the other characters. It's a lot, but it's also a lot of fun and I really enjoyed it.
What were 2 or 3 of the highlights for you personally in this process?
First of all, I would say the people. We spent a lot of time together over the course of a year. We're all still in contact as we're preparing for Sherlock to come to theaters, and you really do get to know people. When you're spending 8 plus hours a day up to 5 in the morning, a lot of our shoots would be from 6 PM to 4 AM, 5 AM in the morning. You really get to bond, and then also just getting to see the work that you created together helps to bond the group as well. The other big highlight for me would definitely be the growth that I got to feel as an actor. I can't believe that I landed this job and this is my first project. The character of Scarlett is so well written. She's very 3D. She's a person and she experiences such a range of emotions. And this was my first time working in front of a camera like this close from my face. I had been taking classes for over a year in film, but it's a different thing to actually be on set with the camera right there. You got everybody watching you, you've put in the work, and now you have to show up and you have to trust the technique. So there were times where some scenes were difficult for me. I just I didn't expect all the nerves that I had. But by the end of the project, I did some scenes that I wouldn't have been able to do when I first started. As I think my character grew throughout the course of filming, I really got the chance to grow as an actor. And again, it was just so helpful to be working with CJ Goodwyn, be working with Les and Michelle, people who were supportive and really fostered an environment where I could grow and I could explore things.
Let me ask you to maybe look down the road a little bit, and how can you use this experience in your career going forward? Is it the professional growth? Is it the greater confidence in yourself? Is it having worked with people like you just named on a resume? Is it all of the above? Is it none of the above?
It would be all of the above. I think I learned to work in a smaller scale, so even though at times there were a small number of us on set, we were able to accomplish such big projects, such big effects, learning to make do with the people who are around you, how to work together well, learning how to handle nerves on set, how to handle nerves in front of the camera. Again, I'd mainly just done stage at this point. I'd had classes, but this was my first actual in-person experience working with the camera on a real job. So now I do feel much more confident because with the right direction, with the right support, I was able to see myself accomplish hard things and hard challenges. And I think it's also just gives me inspiration knowing how wonderful it can be. I really didn't know what to expect when I came in. I had never worked with any of these folks before. They're all in Kerrville and San Antonio. I was in Austin. So they were all brand new faces to me, but working with wonderful artists and wonderful human beings, it helps you to look forward to what comes next.
Taylor, unfortunately, we are near the end of our time for this episode. But before we leave, I wanted to ask you if our listeners wanted to connect with you on any social platforms, what might be your preferred social platforms for connection with your audience and fans?
Sure. You are welcome to follow me on Instagram. My handle is Taylor underscore Ann underscore King underscore. You're also welcome to connect with me on Facebook. Be sure to check out our Sherlock Holmes Mare of the Night website. We also have a Fandango, so you can find the theater that's closest to you.
Taylor, I wanted to thank you again for taking the time to visit with me, and I hope we can continue this conversation.
That sounds great. Thank you so much for having me.